Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Mike, and welcome to A Parts Life. This is a YouTube channel that's going to be dedicated about you guys learning on how to run a parts department. And today is going to be story time. This story is about how a tiny little seedling, a little problem, when swept under a rug, will turn into a gigantic monster, and why you should always trust but verify, and especially when something happens in the department that's outside the normal box. So this is a story about an Xterra that we had come in about 2013 or 14, somewhere around there, and the car was like a 2000 Xterra, the pre-2005, pre 4-liter V6 model, like a 2000, I don't know, 2002, something like that. But anyway, car came in, it had a misfire, it was running rough, check engine light was flashing, and what was happening was the engine harness was just coming apart. All the rubber, the insulation on the wiring was all coming apart. The car was like from Arizona or something where it's hot. And the wires were touching each other, so it was causing a problem. The thing needed an engine harness, couldn't repair this because when you touch one part of it, just more and more of it would break. And it was junk. So the part was out of production, couldn't get the part. The customer was like devastated. They just bought the car. And we ended up going on the parts locator, and we found a harness at a dealership in one of the Carolinas. And so what was happening was this was going on with one of my counter guys, and I had gotten involved when we were doing the locate. We saw the harness. I called the dealership. They said, yep, it's new old stock. We got it here. It's in a box. When do you want it? And I said, great. I'll get a check overnighted to you. You send it back to us, and we'll be all good to go. Hang up the phone, and this is where I made the mistake. Because sort of a younger, more naive parts manager, I handed the torch back to the counter guy. And I shouldn't have done that, really, because he wasn't that experienced of a counter guy, and this was something that was outside of the box. But I wasn't really that experienced either, and that's why this happened. He said, all right, I'll take care of it. A few days go by, no harness. I looked at him, I said, hey, did that check ever get sent out? Yeah, I brought it upstairs, they sent it out, blah, blah, blah. All right, whatever. Another day or two goes by, still no harness. So I called the dealer. Hey, what's going on? They said, well, we got the thing here. We're waiting on your check. We don't have a check. And once we get it, we'll send it out to you. I said, all right. Hang up the phone. Go to the counter guy. Hey, when did they mail the check out? He goes, all right, let me go find out. Goes upstairs, comes back down, tells me, hey, they sent it out, but they sent it out snail mail instead of overnight. Just regular USPS mail envelope. I was like, God, why would you do that? But whatever. So now it's sort of like an acceptable time frame because it's going via snail mail. It's going to take 5, 6, 7 days before the check gets there, and then they're probably going to want to hold on to the check because it's not a dealer we do business with regularly, so they're probably going to want to hold it till it clears before they release the part, and so forth and so forth and so forth. The reason for the check was that we didn't have a company credit card. I would have used that instead, so whatever. Few more days go by, no part, no nothing. Call the dealer, hey, what's going on? We don't have a check. All right, this is when I decided to go upstairs and find out what's going on. Go upstairs, and I asked the accounts receivable AP and IR girl, I said, hey, what's going on with this check? And she looked at me like I had 7 heads. She goes, what check? What are you talking about? And she is the type of person that when she has something to do, she gets it done. And whatever she tells you is the truth. And the counter guy that was involved was someone that sometimes kind of made stories askewed a little in his favor. So I was less likely to believe him and more likely to believe her. So anyway, the dealer doesn't have a check. I go downstairs. Hey, what happened to this? Says to me, well, I gave him the check request. I don't know what's going on. This is blah, 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 blah. I said, all right. And I get a check request. I get the check cut. I call the dealer. I said, hey, I got your check. I'm going to overnight it to you and get the harness. And they said to me, well, you're not going to believe this. Someone came in and needed that harness, and we sold it. And hey, they're a dealer. That's what they're there to do. But now I have no part. The customer is PO'd. Now they're calling every day. What's going on with my car? Where's my part? Where's my this? Where's my that? And there's no way to get another part. There's no stock in the US. There's no parts being produced. That's it. And then I remembered there was like a forum where Nissan parts guys would go on and they would post like, I have this obsolescence, that obsolescence. Do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that? Whatever. And that's how they would try to move their weird obsolescent inventory. And I went on there and typed in this thing's part number, and boom, a dealer showed up in California, Southern California. And it didn't show up in the locator because this is a part they took out of inventory. They wrote it off. It was apparently non-returnable, so they write the thing off and they kept it on the shelf somewhere. I called the dealer. He says, yeah, I got it. I said, perfect. So I paid for it with my personal credit card to not even bother getting checks or any of that, just to get the part coming. They overnight it. We tell this to the customer. They're happy. You know, we got them the part. They'll have it tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. Come in the next day, no UPS delivery. Not one in the morning, not one in the afternoon, not anything. I run the tracking number and it shows scanned where it was picked up, brought to them, scanned in at a UPS distribution center, and that's it. Poof, gone. After that, no movement at all. Call UPS, they give me the standard, hey, you know, file a claim, we'll get to it, you know, 14 business days, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have that time. I filed the claim, and then I started calling around, asking if anybody knew somebody at UPS, this guy, that guy, what can we do? How can we get this done? And I literally wound up on LinkedIn looking for managers on UPS out in Southern California. And I found somebody and I sent them a message and they replied because I told them what was going on. They said, all right, we get the how critical this is for you. And they gave me the phone number of the distribution center. When's the last time you got a phone number to like a DHL, UPS, USPS distribution center? It doesn't happen. You call some 1-800 number, they connect you to a laptop that's halfway across the world, some guy in a call center that'll tell you to look into this 15 days from now and that they'll be in touch. But I got the phone number. So I keep calling over there. Nobody's answering the phone because it's a phone that never rings. They're not used to answering it or whatever. And I keep calling and calling and calling. And finally, somebody answered the phone and I tell her what's going on. She said, well, judging by the dimensions you're telling me, might have fallen here, might have fallen there. I'll go look around and I'll call you back. Well, this lady, whoever she was, ended up going throughout this warehouse and actually found the package where it fell off a conveyor or whatever had happened to it, put it back on. The thing ended up getting overnighted to us. So instead of actually taking an overnight, it ended up being like something 3 to 4 days because of all the chasing I had to do to find this contact info. They got the part to us. They ended up refunding us for the overnight. We got the thing into the car, got it back together, got the customer on the road. They're all happy, blah, 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 great. But the moral of the story is trust, but verify. Now, notice how I didn't say don't trust. Because if there's someone that you don't trust, then they shouldn't be working in your parts department. But this was really my fault. You know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't really know any better. But anytime there's something like that out of the box that's involved, I recommend you, the manager, get involved and make sure that it gets done correctly. Because this guy, you know, he had a tendency to manipulate stories in his best interest. And what happened, I don't know. Why he didn't bring up the thing up there, I don't know. Like a year later, I was going through the back room of the parts department, and this guy had quit, or maybe it was even 2 years later, we were going through the back room of the parts department, and I had lifted some part, and underneath was the check request that he had made out. He never even brought it upstairs. Maybe he left it back there and forgot all about it and just covered his tracks until the thing turned into this giant monster. You know, if we nipped it in the bud and he went to me and said, hey, I forgot to do it. I don't know where the check request is. We're going to have to make a new one. Whatever. We would have made a new one, brought it upstairs and gotten it over with. But it's not what happened. went from that little seedling to a giant, raging, screaming monster. We ended up getting it fixed, made the customer happy. But again, that's the moral of the story with when you're running a parts department. Trust, but verify. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Any questions, I'll try to make a video on the questions you ask. Thank you. Good night.